In the year 9 AD, a fateful event occurred in the shadowy forests of Germania, an event that would forever alter the course of history and test the resilience of an empire that had once been unchallenged. Rome, the eternal city, the cradle of civilization, was brought to its knees. On that fateful day, 3 Roman legions, nearly 20,000 soldiers, were ambushed and slaughtered in the dense, mist-covered woods. The once indomitable force of Rome was decimated, their golden eagles, symbols of the empire's power and glory, seized by the very barbarians that Rome had long thought beneath her. As news of this catastrophe spread through the empire, the people of Rome were stunned into disbelief. Emperor Augustus, a man who had led Rome to its greatest heights, wandered through the halls of his palace in a daze. He could scarcely comprehend the extent of the disaster. For Rome, this was not just a military defeat, it was a profound wound to her very soul. The loss of the eagles, those revered standards that represented the might of Rome, was a public humiliation. Rome's power, once unquestionable, had been shaken to its core. But in the heart of this devastation, a vow was made, a vow of vengeance. Rome would not forget. Rome would rise again. This defeat would be avenged, and the legions would march once more. Rome, shattered by this calamity, struggled to find her footing. The streets of the city, once filled with the sounds of celebration, now whispered only of defeat. Augustus, though old and frail, knew that this humiliation could not stand. The loss of so many of his best soldiers was a grievous blow to Rome's military might, but he also understood that to falter now would be to invite further decay. The empire was vast, but even it had its limits. The very survival of Rome was at stake. Shifts to a determined, somber tone, Augustus called upon his generals not to wage an immediate war, but to fortify Rome's borders and restore order. The legions would be rebuilt, stronger, better prepared. The empire needed to heal, and in order to do so, Augustus issued an order that would shape the next phase of Rome's history, the reclamation of the lost honor. The eagles, which had been stolen in the chaos of battle, must be recovered, and the tribes of Germania must be made to pay for their insolence. This was no longer just about revenge. It was about restoring Rome's rightful place in the world. But Rome could not rise from its ashes overnight. The task was immense. The people had to be unified again, their pride rekindled. Citizens whispered of omens, of statues weeping blood and lightning striking the heavens. Even the gods seemed to be signaling a reckoning. Augustus, though weary, understood the gravity of his command. He gave orders for the strengthening of the Rhine frontier and the preparation of new legions. The path to vengeance had been set, and those who had humbled Rome would pay the price. In the midst of Rome's turmoil, a new leader emerged. Germanicus, the adopted son of Tiberius. He was young, charismatic, and, above all, he was determined. Germanicus was born to lead, raised in the military traditions of Rome, and trained to understand the complex nature of warfare. His rise came not just from bloodlines, but from his own proven skill as a tactician and his innate ability to inspire those around him. Germanicus was entrusted with a mission that was more than just a military campaign. It was Rome's answer to humiliation. He was appointed to lead the charge against the Germanic Tribes, tasked with reclaiming the lost eagles and avenging the massacre of the legions. The empire's fate rested on his shoulders, and Germanicus knew the weight of that responsibility. In 14 AD, with 30,000 soldiers under his command, Germanicus crossed the Rhine and plunged into the heart of Germania. The time for revenge had arrived. Germanicus moved swiftly and decisively, utilizing strategies that would prevent the mistakes of Teutoburg. His soldiers, disciplined and resilient, tore through the dense forests of Germania. The Germanic tribes, who had once believed they were invincible, were now faced with an unstoppable force. Germanicus's leadership and precision were undeniable. His every move was calculated, every attack executed with flawless efficiency. But the Germans were not finished yet. They would soon learn that the Romans' thirst for vengeance had only just begun. 6 long years passed, and Germanicus finally stood at the site of the greatest Roman defeat, Teutoburg. The once vibrant forest, where thousands of Roman soldiers had fallen, now stood in solemn silence. The trees, which had once witnessed the triumph of Rome, now bore witness to the horrors of defeat. Germanicus and his soldiers stepped onto the very ground where their brothers had been slaughtered, their bodies left to decay in the wilds of Germania. As they gathered the bones of their fallen comrades, there was no glory to be found here, only grief. The Roman soldiers carefully collected the scattered remains, each bone a reminder of the courage and sacrifice made on that fateful day. The bones of the fallen were laid to rest with reverence, and Germanicus, overcome with emotion, vowed that these men, though lost, would never be forgotten. Their sacrifice would be avenged. In that moment of mourning, Germanicus made a vow to his soldiers. The legions had fallen, but their spirits would live on through the punishment of those who had caused their deaths. The Germans would pay. Their resistance would be crushed, and the eagles would be returned to Rome. No longer would the memory of Teutoburg be one of defeat. It would become a symbol of the vengeance that followed. Having honored the fallen, Germanicus now turned his focus to the Germanic tribes. With the grief of Teutoburg behind him, he launched a brutal counterstrike that would shatter the resolve of the barbarians. The Romans moved with relentless force, burning villages, decimating enemy forces, and leaving a trail of destruction. This was no longer just a battle for the eagles. It was a campaign of retribution. The Germans, who had once believed they could defy Rome, now found themselves the prey. Germanicus, with his superior knowledge of the land and his impeccable military strategy, outmaneuvered the tribes at every turn. Rome's soldiers, hardened by the loss and fueled by vengeance, fought with unmatched fury. Their discipline, their unity, was their greatest weapon. One by one, the Germanic tribes fell before them. The Romans had learned their lesson. This time, they would not fail. Germanicus had proven that Rome's strength was unyielding. The tribes of Germania were broken, scattered, and humbled. The Romans had shown them that the wrath of the empire, once stirred, could not be contained. As Germanicus continued his advance, he came face to face with the Germanic tribes at the Visuris River. Here, they would make their stand. This would be their final chance to halt the Roman onslaught. The riverbanks became a battleground, where the forces of Rome and the barbarian tribes would clash in a brutal fight for survival. Germanicus, with his strategic brilliance, ordered his men to charge. The Romans, disciplined and focused, pushed forward, their shields locked together. The Germans, with their wild fury, tried to overwhelm the Roman lines, but they were met with the unshakable resolve of Rome's finest soldiers. The battle was fierce, the clash of steel echoing through the air, but in the end, the Romans prevailed. The Germans, unable to match the discipline and unity of the Roman legions, broke apart. The river ran red with the blood of the fallen. The legions had triumphed again. Rome's vengeance had been delivered. Despite their victory, the Germans were not finished. They knew that to defeat the Romans in open battle was impossible, so they resorted to more insidious tactics. In the swamps of Germania, they launched ambushes that would test the Roman legions to their very limits. The soldiers, bogged down by the treacherous terrain, found themselves once again in a perilous position. The Germans attacked from the shadows, striking with deadly precision. The Romans, trapped in the muck, struggled to maintain their formation. Yet, in the face of these challenges, Germanicus did not falter. He understood the terrain, and he knew how to use the forest to his advantage. Slowly, the Romans regrouped, forming tighter ranks, and, under Germanicus's command, they began to push back the Germans. The swamp was no match for the resolve of the Roman legions. Finally, after months of fighting, Germanicus led his legions to the final Germanic stronghold. The moment they had all been waiting for was at hand, the recovery of the lost eagles. The Germans, desperate to keep their prize, fought fiercely, but the Romans were relentless. The battle raged, the clash of weapons echoing in the forest. After a long and bloody siege, the Romans finally captured the eagle, its golden wings blackened by fire, but still a symbol of Rome's pride. The legions had recovered the emblem of their honor. The Romans wept as they held the eagle high, not just for the victory, but for the men they had lost. The eagles had returned to Rome, and so, too, had Rome's honor. The final confrontation was set. The Romans and Germans met once more on the battlefield, this time with everything on the line. Germanicus, with the weight of Rome's vengeance on his shoulders, led his legions into the heart of the Germanic resistance. The battle was ferocious. The Germans fought with all their might, but the Romans, tempered by years of suffering and sacrifice, were unstoppable. Germanicus pressed forward, his soldiers unwavering. The Germanic lines crumbled under the Roman onslaught. Arminius, the leader of the Germanic tribes, fought bravely, but his forces were no match for the disciplined Romans. The final battle was over, and Rome's vengeance had been fulfilled. As the legions returned to Rome, the streets erupted in celebration. The eagles were back. The soldiers had avenged their fallen brothers. But for those who had fought in this brutal campaign, there was no true joy. They had won, but at what cost? The land of Germania lay in ruins, and the soldiers carried the scars of battle in their hearts. The empire had been restored, but the price of victory weighed heavily on their souls. Rome stood victorious once more, but the echoes of Teutoburg would never fade. The legions, once unbroken, now bore the mark of the toll taken by their victories. Even the greatest empires must pay for their glory, and though Rome's power was undiminished, the cost of her triumph would be carried by those who had fought for her. As the years passed, the memory of Teutoburg became not just a battle, but a testament to the price of war, one that would resonate throughout history.
Victory is ours. The Germans will learn the price of their betrayal. Rome will not rest until every dishonor is repaid. Strength is in our unity! Push them back! Rome will never falter! Freedom! For our homeland! Rome has avenged its fallen.
Rome's vengeance has been wrought. But at what cost?
A costly victory, Germanicus. The men fought bravely.
They did, Commander. We honor the fallen by securing the Rhine.
We held the line, though. Aye. Rome will remember this day. We have avenged Rome. But at what cost? How many more must fall? Something's wrong. Stay alert.
Keep the line tight. Watch your step. I'm sinking. Help me. Help me! Pull me out! Close ranks! Hold the line! To me! For Rome! I will not fall! Fight, brothers! We die as one! For our land! For our freedom! Advance the standards! Push them back! Stand firm, men! Hold the line here! Advance, brothers! We end this here!
The cost of victory is always heavy. But we have won, and Rome is avenged.
Rome's honor is restored.
For Rome!
Rome is whole again. We've returned Rome's glory.
We have done it. But at what cost?
You are the pride of Rome.
This is Rome's strength.
We've done what no one thought possible.
It's ours again.
Rome will never forget.
Fight with honor! Today, we reclaim Rome's glory! For our freedom! For Germania! For Rome! Charge! For Rome! For the eagle! For Rome! For victory! Fight! For freedom! For our land! Fight! For freedom! For our land!
It is over.
Push forward! For Rome! No! It is lost! I will never kneel! Rome's victory is complete.
For Rome, we have do it. We honor their spirits.
Rome stands tall again because of your valor. This victory is ours, together.
Today, Rome honors her suz. Rome is restored, but the cost is in our hearts. Mars, we have done your will, but at what cost?
Rome is restored.
We've won, but the war never truly ends.
Rome has conquered once more!
We fight for those who cannot fight anymore. We lost so much, but we have redeemed Rome.
This victory belongs to Rome, to her soldiers, and to the gods we honor.
For them, for the fallen. Rome's power is restored, but at what cost? Rome endures. We have done our part.